Hello dear learners, welcome to SWAM NPTEL course on Methodology of Educational Research. I am Dr. Saritanand from Department of Education, Vinay Bhavan, Vishwabharati, Shantiniketan, West Bengal, India. Today we will talk about the module 19 on correlational studies, and this is the lecture 19. And before going to the lecture, we will see the concept covered. Earlier we had discussed about the causal comparative ex-post-Facto research design, its meaning, concept and characteristics. Also the types of causal comparative research were discussed, like exploration of effects, cause and consequences. Also other type of causal comparative research were discussed, retrospective and prospective research design. Now we will talk about the correlational studies. Here correlational studies or researches is a type of non-experimental research in which researchers measure two or more variables and assess the relationship or correlation between them without any manipulation. The variables in correlational research could be categorical, qualitative or quantitative, and their behavior is measured in the natural setting. Correlations can be strong or weak or positive or negative. There could be also instances where there is no correlation between the variables. For example, changes in prices of consumer goods lead to a change in the demand for these products. So, the prices of consumer goods and the demand for them are correlated. Correlational research is useful in understanding economic behavior and can be used to analyze the relationship between the economic indicators such as GDP and unemployment rates. Examining the association between the market variables such as stock prices, interest rates and the study consumer behavior patterns such as income and expenditures are also the part of this type of research. Now, the characteristics of correlational research. Following are some characteristics I have tried to visualize, like non-experimental, dynamic and backward looking. These are three types of correlational researches. Let us go one by one. The non-experimental correlational researches, there is no manipulation of variables, a predefined methodology is used to prove a hypothesis. Correlational research is the measurement of the natural relationship between the two variables without interference from other variables. Then the second type is dynamic. The dynamic correlation between variable is not constant and it is continually evolving. If the two variables have a negative correlation at present, they may develop a positive correlation in future because it is keep changing. So, third one is background or backward looking. This backward looking type of correlational research is look backward at the historical information to observe long term trends and patterns. However, it cannot be used to make predictions. So, what is correlational research? The concept of correlational research is a type of study designed and analyze the relationship between two or more variables. This type of research helps ascertain whether there is an association between the variables or does not determine whether one causes the other. So, there is no causation effort there in this correlational research. This study can have three possible outcomes or relationship between the variables: positive, negative or no correlation. So, positive correlation, an increase or decrease in one variable leads to increase or decrease in another variable. The negative correlation, an increase in one variable leads to decrease in the other variable and vice versa. And no correlation, an increase or decrease in one variable does not change or affect the other one. So, researchers present a result of correlation research using a numerical value called correlation coefficient, which measures the strength of correlation. A correlation coefficient close to +1 indicates a very strong positive correlation and a coefficient correlation value close to negative 1 indicates a very strong negative correlation and a coefficient of 0 indicates no correlation. So, when to use the correlational researches? Correlational researches can be used in many fields such as economics, psychology, medicine, education to determine if two or more variables are related or not. Researchers can choose to use correlational research in the following situation. The first situation is to find only the association between variables irrespective of the causality of the relationship. That is, correlation research does not ascertain whether a change in one variable causes a change in other variable, but rather only helps understand if they are related. For example, a company observes a decline in the sales of household appliances. Correlational research can help them to identify whether the association with the decline in sales, such as increasing prices, although it may not be the only variable contributing to the decline, maybe the quality issue or maybe the area where they have opened their shop, etc. The second one is when researchers want to understand that the effect of variables in natural setting wherein the variables cannot be controlled. For example, visiting a hospital to ascertain the relationship between the department or specialty type and wait time for the patient. The third one is when researchers think there could be a causal relationship between the variables, but it would be impossible, impractical or unethical to manipulate the variables, such as when studying the effect of traumatic event on an individual. The fourth one is to generate the hypothesis or prediction for the future researches. Then how to collect the data in the correlational researches? This question comes. Then in correlational researches, since one of the variables are manipulated, none of the variables manipulated, how or where they are measured is not important. For example, participants could visit the researcher at a laboratory to complete the task, and the relationship between the variables could be assessed later, or the researcher could visit a shopping mall to ask people about their attitude towards the environment and their shopping habits and assess the relationship. Both these studies would be correlational because the variables are not manipulated, they are being studied in a natural setting. So, there are mainly three types of data collection methods in correlational researches: in naturalistic observation, survey and archival research. So, these naturalistic observation, surveys and archival research is the type on the basis of data collection method in correlational researches. Let us understand the data collection in correlational researches through the table. This table you can find in John W. based book, and other researchers book also they are given, and I have taken from those research books. So, the parameter is definition. Naturalistic observation involves the observing and recording the variables interest in natural setting without manipulation. In survey involves having a random sample, participants complete a survey, questionnaire or test related to the research variable. And in archival research, the involves the analyzing studies conducted long ago by the researchers and reviewing historical records and the case studies. So, what are the advantages of using these three types of data collection techniques in the correlational research? This is well suited for the studies where researchers want to study the behavior of variables in their natural environment, provides more realistic information in the naturalistic observation, whereas in survey can collect large amount of data in short time. Like these days we use the Google form and it takes little time or less time than the physical mode, and the cost effective as well, and the speed is also fast, and in archival research free to use and cost effective. provide large amount of data collected over a long period and can help study trends and relationship. These days review or meta analysis researches are also very famous. Now, let us understand about the data collection in the other parameters like disadvantages. What are the disadvantages of this kind of data collection? Maybe in naturalistic settings, researchers cannot control the study variables or explain the reasons of the participants' behavior. It can be costly and time consuming and risk for the researcher and participants' bias. Whereas in survey method, results can be affected by poor survey questions and unrepresentative sample, or maybe someone else has filled up the Google form for someone else. So, this can be the disadvantage, and the data might be incomplete or unreliable if you are going for archival method, and some topics may not be relevant in the current context, no control over data collection method and authenticity of the data also. Example, in the natural settings, the researcher visit a pharmacy natural setting to observe how many people buy cold related medicine on a winter day. In a survey method, a questionnaire or the scale ascertain if there is a relationship between educational level and individual income. You can go for that. Using database to study the historical unemployment rates and crime statistics in the city over a certain period of time, this can be gathered, the data can be gathered through the help of archival database. Now, how to analyze the correlational researches? After collecting the data, you can analyze the relationship between the variables using either correlation or regression analysis or both. Scatter plots can also be used for visualizing the relationship. These scattered plots are utilized for the interpretation also. So, the correlational analysis is a method of determining if the relationship exists between the variables. These relationships can be depicted through number called the coefficient correlation, and the Pearson correlation method Pearson R is commonly used in the identifying the number depicted in strength and linear correlation between two variables. Pearson R, product moment correlation, etc. are being used. These method uses scattered plot, and the direction of the line drawn in the graph depicts the correlation. I have taken it from the research book. I have mentioned maybe name. This is the common picture in the books, research books, that first picture is showing positive correlation, one variable increase of one variable increasing the other one. No correlation, there is no increase or decrease, there is no effect on the one variable to other one, and the negative effect, that the third one, that if you increase the one, the other will decrease. Like if you increase the study timing, your performance will increase in the positive correlation, and if you will decrease the your study and go for roaming, then your marks will be negatively affected. So, this kind of output can be studied in the correlational studies and the regression analysis. It is also used to estimate the relationship between the dependent variable and one or more independent variable. This method can be used to predict the amount of change in one variable that will be associated with a change in another variable. Linear regression is the most common type of regression here in the social sciences and humanities. Regression analysis is helpful in understanding how different variables influence each other and what the outcomes are. So, when we are using the plotting or Venn diagram, then this picture of regression analysis can be clear. So, understanding the correlation and causation. So, if we are interested to understand this term, although both correlation and causation describe the relationship between the variables, but both have significant differences. The correlation only identifies or determines that a relationship exists between the variables. However, causation indicates that one event causes another. because this is causation, cause and effect. Causation occurs when one variable directly causes the change in another one. This relationship is more difficult to prove and requires experimentation. Although correlation and causation can occur at the same time, correlation does not imply causation, because the relationship between the variables could be due to either a third variable or some coincidence also. For example, there could be a correlation between the amount of exercise done by an individual and their reported level of happiness, and although it is possible that an increase in the exercise could cause an increase in the level of happiness, because if you will fit and slim, then definitely you will be happy. The exercise cannot be confirmed as the sole cause, because another unknown variable could be significantly influencing the happiness level. Maybe someone is pleasing you, that you are looking good, you are looking fit, then definitely that is also the factor of your happiness, not only the exercise. So, the type of correlational research, there are three main type of correlation. First one is the positive and negative correlation, second one is linear and non-linear correlation, the third one is simple, multiple and partial correlation. So, we will go through the types of correlation. I have tried to make it visually representative, the positive, negative and correlation, and the linear, non-linear, and the third one is simple, multiple and partial correlation. So, let us go one by one regarding these types of correlational research. First one is the positive and negative. The positive correlation type is when two variables move in the same direction. We have already discussed that when one increases, other also increases, like income versus expenditure, time spent on a treadmill versus calorie burnt. This is living example, I think you can relate it. So, this is the case of positive correlation. The negative correlation, when two variables move in opposite direction, when one increases, other decreases, like price versus demand. If something is costlier, demand will decrease. The temperature versus sale of woolen garments. If temperature increases, woolen garment sale decreases. So, the second one is linear and non-linear type of correlational studies. Linear, when there is a constant change in one variable due to a change in another one, like height versus weight. In most of the cases, as height is increasing, the weight will also increase. Temperature versus sale of the ice cream. So, if your temperature will increase, sale of ice cream will also increase, or the cold material will be increased, food item will be increased. So, non-linear, when there is no constant change in one variable due to the change in another, like production of grain may or may not increase with the increase in fertilizer use. This is not necessary that if you are increasing the use of fertilizer, your production will increase. Then the third type is simple, multiple and partial correlation. Simple correlation is only correlation assessed between the two variables, price versus demand, price versus income, etc. The multiple correlation is three or more variables are assessed simultaneously, like wheat production versus rainfall versus manure quality, etc. The partial correlation, two variables are examined keeping the other variable constant, like production of wheat demand on various factors like rainfall, manure quality, sunlight, fertilizers, etc., and studying wheat production versus rainfall keeping the other variables constant in a partial correlation. So, these you can also study in your research analysis paper also, these are the part of that. So, process of correlational research. Correlational research follows a systematic and structured process to examine the degree and direction of the relationship between two or more as they naturally occur without manipulation. The following steps are commonly followed in educational correlational studies: identification of the problem, identification of variable, formulation of research question or hypothesis, selection of sample, selection of research tools, data collection, the statistical analysis, interpretation of the results, implication and conclusion. So, the whole process is here visually represented for you for your easy understanding, starting with the identification of problem to implications and conclusion, and lastly on the 10th point what you will do? You will write the research report. When you have completed your research work, conclusion you have written, now you have to present or submit the research report lastly after completing the study. So, let us take one by one. Identification of the research problem step. This is the first step, correlation research or any other research also. Clear identification of research problem that seeks to examine the relationship rather the cause and effect. The problem is framed in terms of association, linkage or relationship between the variables. For example, to study the relationship between students' study habit and academic achievement. These days students are little losing their study habit. So, I have taken this example. So, identification and definition of the variables. The researcher identifies two or more variables to be clearly defined them for operationally and to be studied. Variables may include academic achievement, motivation, attitude towards learning, teaching effectiveness, learning style and so on. The list is so long. The clear operational definitions ensure accuracy and consistency in the measurement of the variable. The third step is formulation of research question or hypothesis. Correlational research typically uses relation research questions or null hypothesis. Hypotheses are non-causal in nature. For example, is there any significant relationship between the student's motivation and academic achievement? There is no significant relationship between teaching experience and classroom effectiveness. So, this kind of research question and hypothesis can be prepared. Then the fourth step is sample selection. Researcher has to decide a representative sample is selected from the population using appropriate sampling technique such as simple random sampling, stratified sampling or cluster sampling, etc. Adequate sample size is essential to ensure the reliability and generalizability of the result. The fifth step is selection of construction of the tools. The selection or construction of the tool, if appropriate tool is available ready made, then you can go for the selection, and if not, then develop to measure the variables accurately. These may include achievement tests, attitude, aptitude, motivational scales, questionnaires, rating scales, etc. And the tools should satisfy the criteria of validity and reliability. The sixth step is collection of data. You have selected the research tool, now go for data collection, and all variables are collected simultaneously or within a short period. Since correlational research does not involve treatment or intervention, so go for the direct data collection when you have decided your selected research tool. Ethical considerations such as informed consent and confidentiality are strictly followed by the researcher. The seventh step is statistical analysis of data. The collected data are analyzed using correlational statistics such as Pearson product moment correlation, Spearman's rank order correlation, point by serial, whatever type of correlation is applicable we can use. The correlation coefficient indicates the direction, positive or negative, and strength, weak, moderate or strong relationship between the variables. Then the interpretation of the result, whatever result has come, the researcher has to interpret the correlation coefficient carefully. Positive correlation, negative correlation or zero correlation they have to mention. Now, drawing educational implication and conclusion. After interpretation, they have to write the final steps involved in drawing conclusions based on the findings, discussing educational implications, suggestions, scope for further experimental and causal comparative research findings, may be informing the policy decision, instructional planning, curriculum development and guidance services. And finally, definitely you have to following after all these steps, you have to write the research report definitely. And now we can conclude that the correlational research holds an important place in educational research, as it enables researchers to examine the nature, strength and direction of relationship among variables as they naturally occur, without manipulation or experimental control. This approach is particularly valuable when studying complex educational variables such as achievement, motivation, attitude, intelligence, any teaching practices and socio-cultural factors which cannot be ethically or practically manipulated. In contemporary educational inquiry, correlational research is widely used in need assessment, policy studies, curriculum evaluation and large-scale educational surveys. When conducted carefully and interpreted cautiously, correlational research contributes substantially to evidence-based decision making and enhance understanding of educational phenomena in real world context. Now, I have given the reference, few references I have mentioned here. You can go through the references for your further reading, and these are the valuable research books. You can follow that and keep learning. Thank you.